What do you call that?
Right. Chicken picking.
Louisiana Music Hall of Famer Jonathon Boogie Long on Soul Country No. 5, recorded during the 2024 New Orleans Cigar Box Guitar Festival. I'm Rick Stewart, a community radio DJ since 1986 and an award-winning filmmaker, adding some real-life podcasts to get deeper into soul country, where we lasso tales from the intersection of countrified R&B and bluesy Americana. Listen in as we revitalize our cultural roots in westerns, blues, and variety. Now, a word from our sponsor. Ace Productions' documentary, Blues Rock Hits Soul Country, is chock full of exclusive performances and interviews from rock and soul Hall of Famers and Grammy winners. It's the origin story of soul country. Check it out at soulcountry.com. Well, Jonathon played and chatted about a wide range of styles, inspirations, and collaborations, and here's how it all went down. Are you still Boogie Long officially? Because the last couple records, I think you dropped it on the actual title.
I am Boogie Long officially. I really always have been. That was like a managerial or like a label decision to kind of pull the Boogie out of my name, and I was just Jonathon Long for a while. And it was really just because they didn't want anybody to have a preconceived notion of, like, stylistically of any kind of music that I might play.
So let's throw in a little music break.
I do a lot of writing. I mean, obviously we do a lot of blues. I kind of consider myself more of an Americana writer these days because I write a lot of different styles of music.
Do people apply the term like Southern rock to what you do? You played with ZZ Top at one point. Or
I have. I opened for ZZ Top. Yep.
Yeah. Did you get together to jam with them at all?
Oh, no. It was weird, you know.
He plays with a peso, I heard. I never got close enough to really look at that.
Oh, pesos. Yeah, and I have one. It's kind of tinny. It sounds a little metal on metal, and it's super heavy. You don't really get no flex with it, you know.
Did you move across like different picks, like the round flat and the finger picking?
I did. I just like a round pick. Blue chip picks are my favorite picks, but they're way too expensive.
Did you play tonight more bare finger? Or was
I did. Tonight I kind
of
of played bare finger because cigar box, you have to kind of get that little back and forth kind of, you know, groove going.
Let's talk a little bit about the musical environment you grew up in.
My parents were gospel singers and ministers growing up. So I grew up in like a Southern Baptist kind of gospel type home. We would sing hymnals and have singing nights at my grandparents' house and stuff. And then when I was 11 years old, I got introduced to the blues jams and stuff, about 11 or 12. I had a guitar since I was about 6 or 7. And then I took lessons for about a year and a half or so when I was about 9. So, and then it just kind of took off, and I did my own thing. I mean, I've had a road gig since I was 14. So,
do you see gospel, blues, R&B, and rock as all being kind of the same stuff, or would you say they're very different, or how do you kind of think of it?
I think gospel, blues, and gospel, in particular, African American music as a whole, really has influenced everything to an extent, from where we are now, you know. Like classical music influenced a lot of stuff from the 1800s, whatever, but from where we are now, as far as music having soul, I mean, that's where the real soul comes from. I mean, I grew up on gospel and R&B. There was a lot of guitar players too, you know, Michael Burke, Sean Lane, whatever, but Jill Scott, the Clark Sisters, Frankie Beverly and Mays, Daryl Cooley, Rance Allen, you know, a lot of gospel singers. I mean, I was really into singers just as much as I was like guitar players. I definitely listened to more gospel and R&B than I did like Skinner or Stevie Ray records or anything like that, you know.
What about I guess in my generation, I'm a little older than you are, like classic rock was almost like all that anybody was ever talking about. Did it get to you in the end somehow?
Yeah, I mean, it did. I had a Bourbon Street gig when I was 16. So I mean, I played classic rock. Yeah. I played all the hits. So I mean, I did listen to a lot of that stuff, but I don't know it like the back of my hand, like a lot of people do, you know. But I grew up listening to gospel and R&B, like I said, or just like spirituals and some fusion bands. Like one of my favorite bands is a band called the Aquarium Rescue Unit. Like what, you know? But I love that band, Colonel Bruce Hampton and Oteil Burbridge, and so I love all that stuff.
Tell me a little bit about the Baton Rouge scene. Would you say you kind of came up in that scene, and what's like?
I did. I came up in Baton Rouge. I came up around the Neal family, Kenny Neal, Little Ray Neal. I came up around Larry Garner. They were all touring. Kenny Acosta, a lady named Dixie Rose, who's a singer-songwriter from Baton Rouge, actually gave me my first paying gig and introduced me to the blues jam scene. So I owe a lot of where I am to her and her influence as far as getting me out of the music store and into public, you know. So I definitely grew up on the Baton Rouge scene and around all those people, you know. I spent a lot of time at the guitar store, you know, at my local music store. I mean, I slummed around and played guitar all day. I mean, that's all I wanted to do.
So it says in the internet coverage of you that the Henry Turner Jr. band was the first one you got going with. Is that
Henry Turner and Flavor? The story is I was 14 years old. I dropped out of school, and my parents signed partial custody of me over at Henry Turner, so that I could play clubs and play music around the country. So I was 14, and I played bass in, actually, funny enough, a reggae band. It would be like 2003 or so, something like that, 03, 04.
That's area. A key position, though, in the reggae lineup, because you got the drum and bass concept of it's forward the bass.
Oh, dude, stuff, I had to learn everything like the recording.
So I first saw you were playing with Luther Kent's band. That's been a long association as well, right?
Sure. I got that gig when I was about 18 or 19, you know, or somewhere in between there. And I've played Jazz Fest with him every year since then, pretty much. And he only does a few big band shows a year, but I play with his big band. Mm-hmm. So when he has a 12-piece big band, he'll generally call me first to come play guitar. And then if I can make it, I'll be...
And some of what you've established, it sounds like, in that band's a case in point, is the sort of this role as an accompanist. And so you're here tonight at the Cigar Box Guitar Festival. You're the solo guy. You're singing. You're in front.
You know, I've always been a player and a songwriter and everything. I mean, you have to learn, you know, growing up and just playing music with other people, I learned kind of how to accompany and kind of how to fit in certain musical situations, not step on people's toes and this and that. And then when I do my own thing, it's, you know, it's about what I'm trying to do or what I want. So here's a little verse. Americana. I was driving all alone down the freeway when a man in tattered clothes stepped out in front of me. He said, "Sir, where are you going? It's been a long day." I said, "I'm headed east just to get away." He told stories how he went from rags to riches, but I didn't believe him 'cause his clothes had many stitches and his walking shoes were taped up and wore down. But I don't remember seeing that old hitchhiker frown. And he said, "I got everything I need to live in this old world. I got a pair of clothes, my walking shoes, and a house made out of cardboard. Happier than I've been in this life or any other. Never judge a book by the cover." Right? You know? So that's a verse and a chorus off of it. It's very Americana, yeah, you know, about an old hitchhiker. You know, it's all about when you're a sideman, it's all about making that front man's job as easy as possible, or as the kind of sideman that I was. As a band like Fish, everybody works together, but you know what I mean. But in the big Luther Kent and trick bag, my job is to make Luther Kent's job as easy as possible. When I'm a sideman, I try to fall into the groove of what's happening, to just give him a palette to be able to do his thing on top of.
Would you say there's other sidemen that you noticed, hey, that guy's really good at that job?
Guitar players, I mean, Cranston Clemens is amazing. Austin Seacard. there's a ton of guys down here that are just well, Austin played on Bourbon. I mean, they both played on Bourbon. Really, Cranston's played with everybody. There's a fiddle player named Mike Harvey that's really good at accompanying people. Mike Lemler, obviously on keyboard. I mean, just like anytime I do like a gig like Cigar Box Festival, it's kind of improv. Nothing that I did up there today was rehearsed.
Yeah.
Anyway, because it's, to me, like the whole thing that makes Cigar Box fun is how authentic it sounds and how it really sounds like you're sitting on the front porch playing the old school stuff. And I think the less polished, the better it goes over for what it is. For the blues, it's so universal.
Yes, these are standards.
That's the beautiful
Yeah.
It's standards. That's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about the blues. It's universal. Once the drummer kicks the groove off and the bass player's in, the rest of the band is in. Everybody is in and on point. And they've been playing the same songs for, since Luther was probably 16.
But we're talking about also that joy of playing standards. There's something that's pretty good about these songs. It's kind of a little bit of a release, even if it's not your composition. It's great to join in these things.
Oh,
right?
it's great. It's great. And they're standards for a reason. They're standards because they've lasted the test of time. That's what makes it a standard. All we're doing is borrowing it to have a good time with.
Yeah, a lot of bands are based on that model. We're going to play these standards until we get so good enough to write our own or write something that's based on that.
That's right.
Yeah. Talk about another kind of series of locations you played in, known as the Chitlin Circuit.
Sure.
What's that like now? What's the status of the Chitlin Circuit?
Man, I hadn't been on it in so long. Back
Yeah.
when I was on it, Mel Waiters and Solomon Burke were still around, and you had Theodis Ely, you had Sir Charles Jones, Denise LaSalle, Betty LaVette. It's very cookout, Southern soul, more of like a family gathering, It's a level above the juke joint because they actually put a show together where there's 3, 4, 5 bands on the bill and, sell tickets. And
I'm going down to Louisiana. I'm gonna give me a mojo hand. Yeah. Gonna have all them pretty women gonna buy my command.
We talked about how you got in the business like super young. What would be your advice to like a 15-year-old looking to get into the music world?
Write songs, write as many songs as you can. And it doesn't, a lot of people will give it all to be able to do what we do. So don't ever be nervous to get up there and do it. If you have an ounce of talent in your body, get up there and entertain and just really let loose and try to do it. And definitely write as much songs and be as original as possible. And you don't have to have millions of dollars worth of equipment to make it happen. You don't have to have the best of the best to be real and authentic.
You can do a lot with an iPhone.
Billie Eilish got 5 Grammys on an Apollo and Logic Pro.
Yeah.
And that's $2,500 worth of equipment.
Yeah, you don't even need to have a garage to have a band.
You can produce anything on anything nowadays. The sky is the limit. Just be creative and be real, And then unfortunately, one other piece of advice is do your social media. That's one place I struggle on is social media. And stay on top of that and really build it up because that's what matters now.
Moving on to shows, what would you say makes a good show great?
Playing a show where the audience is there to hear the music, like tonight. There was no talking, there was no conversating. You could hear a pin drop in the room. They were attentive. That's the best kind of shows when people are there, really there to hear the music. I know in the first 3, 4, 5 minutes. Whether it's going to be a great show or not, just by coming out and just the way you connect with the audience right off the bat, or just straight from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to come out and own it, and just take control of the stage,
And does that change when you're the front man versus being in the big band? Is then it more about
I've
unity of that?
always been flashy and kind of full of fire, I mean, I've always made faces and moved around too much. I did a gig when I was 18 with Dr. John, and I was playing behind my head and doing all this crazy stuff, and I don't think I ever got called again for another gig. I'm eccentric. I've always overplayed a little bit, and I've always just kind of like done my own thing and just been my own person. So I mean, they know what they're gonna, when you get Boogie Long on the gig, you get Boogie Long on the gig. People know. But I mean, I feel like I can play most any style and kind of fit into whatever situation. But
yeah, how much information do you really need to get if you're not too familiar with the song to be able to just kind of go ahead and play it?
Generally, I mean, I can play stuff over it the first time around, but I'll know the changes after the first time.
So they just kind of tell you this is the key.
I can hear it. They'll say
key and tempo and bam.
They'll say E, and then I'll know if it's a 1-6-2-5 change or 1-3-4-5, whatever the.
Yeah.
I got my little number. Everybody knows the Nashville number system, but I got my little number system, and it's the same patterns every time. So like once you understand the major scale, you can hear the scale degree without even having a guitar in your hand. You can tell whether it's starting on the minor 6 or whatever. I mean, you can hear it without even having an instrument. So I can listen to a song and chart out the whole song with no guitar, and then pick the guitar up and go, oh, the G's the one. I learned to play by ear at a young age. Like my first guitar teacher, Mark Wascom, taught me how to figure it out. That was like his way of teaching, I would bring him something and he would say, oh, let me hear it. Let me listen to that. And then he would listen to it for a couple minutes and he'd play it, and that's how I learned. That's how I learned to play figuring it out on the fly,
Let's do something like that. That's kind of like you talked about the boogie thing, the boogie beat with some variations on like where you might take that.
So I mean, but it's all the same thing at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Whether you play the pattern or whether you play it, it's all the same thing. It's just all about how or what groove or what pattern you want to play. There's shuffles, there's Chicago blues, Memphis blues, there's Texas blues.
Oh, yeah.
There's.
I was going to ask that about Baton Rouge. Would you see it as being kind of more country or more urban with like the sort of blues that happens? It's known for its blues scene.
Well, it's a Baton Rouge it's got a big blues scene, but it's got a bigger Southern soul scene. So that groove would be like a. And then. So it's that kind of, it's more of like a bouncy kind of like R&B, more soul vibe. Because they had Jackie Neal.
Those guys have a good like grasp on the country, some element of that.
Oh,
but they bring
100%.
it into it, like whereas New Orleans or Chicago, even it'll be sophisticated in some other kind of way.
100%.
Yeah.
And Baton Rouge blues definitely has its own sound.
Slim Harpo was one of my favorites.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, he really had some cool tracks. And Buddy Guy gets associated with there. He's not originally from there, but he put a lot of time in.
Well, he had a house there for a while.
He's
or he still does.
Residence, yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
Sam.
Louisiana guy.
I grew up with his brother Sam. I grew up around Sam Guy. He was a staple around there.
Okay, let's talk about your recent releases. You had 2 produced by Samantha Fish for the Wild Heart label.
Yeah, for Wild Heart Records. They're still out there. Self-titled Jonathon Long, and then I had one called Parables of a Southern Man. We don't work together anymore, but she produced 2 records on me, and I have a new project I'm working on now. I actually went and tracked 10 songs, but I kind of shelved them for the time being because I got a recording project that I'm working on with two pretty influential guys, so that are
We're in the pre-announcement phase of that.
Well, kind of, sort of, yeah. Jim Odom, the owner of Personas, he sold Personas to Fender, but Jim Odom is going to try to help me produce a record. So that's kind of like my next move right now. We're just kind of in the writing phase and like really trying to figure that stuff out. But And I still got Jazz Fest and Baton Rouge Blues Fest, and I'm going back to Romania in July, and I got stuff coming up. So.
Writing songs, does that come naturally, or is that like a process that you follow to try and get the result?
It kind of comes naturally. Everybody has like some sort of writer's block, you know. But it's weird because I'll write songs while driving. I'll write songs just sitting there randomly and think of a line and like really kind of start grooving on it. I'll have a verse and a chorus that just happens. Like it'll write itself in 2 minutes, and then I'll be stuck on the rest of the song for 2 years. You know, it's just there's different everybody has their own process, their own way of going about it. I'm hearing everything in my head all at one time. Like it does kind of come naturally. It's not even that every song that I write is a great song, but the writing of it comes kind of natural.
How do you feel about like adding like whatever more elaborate arrangement with horns and keyboards and all that kind of stuff? Does that happen to you a lot?
I would love to do that. I would love to have more arrangement, but I've always been taught, don't put anything on the record that you're not going to have out on the road with you playing it. You know, I haven't toured enough in my career. I play a lot of festivals, and I'm gonna like, you know, touring more and doing more club dates in between festival dates and stuff like that is a big goal of mine. Like I wanna fill the calendar.
Have you done much inroads into Europe? I know a lot of Louisiana performers.
I'm going to
there.
Europe.
Yeah.
I go back in July. I've been to Sweden. I've been to Romania, Kosovo, Belgium, Germany.
Those could be the bigger audience crowds of the year. I mean,
well, I love Jazz Fest. I love playing the Jazz Fest. The Brazil, when I played Romania last time, it was about 6,000 or 7,000 people. I only brought 120 records with me. I said, well, if I sell these 120, I'll be happy, right? And then I sold those records in like the first 4 or 5 minutes of the first show, and then I didn't have any more records left for the rest of the tour. Yeah. I'll make sure to bring enough records this time.
All right, here's a tour that I read about that you did, working with B.B. King on tour for a while. Tell me about that one.
Sure. So after I won Guitar Center's King of the Blues, a couple years later, I was tapped on the shoulder by William Morris Agency to support B.B. King on it was a 15-show run from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, back to Tunica, Mississippi. So I drove 30 however many hours from Louisiana to Michigan, started the tour. After I pulled a U-Haul trailer behind my expedition, and after the first night, they decided, oh, you guys are great. We're going to let y'all share backline, and all you need now is a guitar amp. So I pulled that trailer all over the country, and we didn't even need it anymore because they were sharing gear with us, right?
Yeah, bad time.
But man, what a time. He was getting older by then, but he still put on a great show.
Okay, what about Government Mule? I saw you worked a little bit with them.
I sat in with him one time at the Mahalia Jackson Theater here in New Orleans. It was a good time. Warren definitely knows me. He was at King of the Blues when I won. He actually told me before I got off stage, go out there and get him, or something to that effect. And I said, I will, Uncle Warren. I always call him Uncle Warren. And he's one of my favorite musicians ever. I love Mule. Government Mule is definitely in my top 3 favorite bands ever. I love. They have a sound that is just unmatched.
What about that time they did the Pink Floyd album?
So good.
Did you have that one? Dark Side of the Mule.
I've heard
like
I've heard clips off of it. My favorite was The Deepest End.
Collaborations that are on your wish list? Anything you?
Warren, Joe B was supposed to do a track with me. And I reached out to him, and I said, hey man, I'm a huge fan. Like we know each other, whatever. He's been knowing me a long time, and he said, yeah, man, I'll be glad to help you out. And then it just didn't end up coming together. He's kind of stopped responding to messages, and I guess life just got too busy. But I would have loved to do something with Joe B. I love Joe B. Warren's my hero, man. If I could do something with Warren. Oh, Jason Isbell, my absolute favorite songwriter, man. I just love him.
He makes really cool records,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, Weather Vanes is incredible. And obviously Elephant is one of the greatest songs ever written. I think.
And you're going to be at Jazz Fest again this
year?
year?
I'll be at Jazz Fest April 27th.
27th, okay.
Yeah, and at the Blues Tent.
All right, fun stories about the tours or parties that will never happen again?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, there's so many nights I don't remember because I grew up playing on the frat circuit. You know, I played frat parties. To be 100% honest, I'm businessman. If I do my job, I do what they paid me to come there to do.
So
You know?
I was gonna say I didn't learn about it until Murph announced it maybe like I don't know, probably about 5 cigar box festivals ago. But they put you in the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame. How old were you when they did that?
That was 2019. So I'm 35 currently. So what, 5 years ago, I was about 30, 29 or 30.
And did you see it coming? Was that the kind of thing you saw?
Well, you know, it's there's a couple board members that run that whole deal, and if they believe in you and like you, you kind of get in. He might not have put me in, but I told him, I said, man, if you're gonna put me in, don't wait till I'm old and in a wheelchair and can't play no more. Put me in where I can at least utilize the accolade or to be able to say it, you know, and enjoy doing it and being in it. But he was, you know, he let a lot of younger guys in more recent years. You know, Chase Tyler got put in, and Lane Hardy won American Idol, and he got put in. So, I mean, I've been doing it my whole life. I devoted my entire life to it. You know.
Yeah, but a lot of it was that professionalism you're talking about because you were able to play so many different roles. And
You don't hear nothing about Boogie Long showing up 40 minutes late, all drunked up and da-da-da. You don't hear those stories because I do my job, you know.
Yeah.
12 hours across the country and I have to drive there. I'm going to get there if my truck breaks down and I got to rent a car and it costs me money to get there. I'm going to get there and do the gig because it's the gig. Once you're contracted for something, you got to do your job in order to ever get called again. Because otherwise, you don't ever get called again.
there's other people who could come in there.
Yeah, there's a ton of people that do it. You just got to be real and you know do your job.
And this is like a
know?
craftsmanship kind of belief, like rather than a competitive. Like I don't have to beat somebody else. I have to be the best guy I can be.
That I can be the
Yeah.
best I can, and
Yeah.
that's all you can do is do the best you can on any given night. You know?
Oh, let's play a little bit of that song. You had that song earlier.
Oh yeah, that so it says I may never see Wuhan, China. Yeah, and I might die alone. I might live out every single word to every one of my songs. I may never be the man that you think I should. At best, I'm a best he could. You know, it's just real. It's about the realness and about being, you know.
That one reminded me of Isbell. I was thinking.
Yeah, it's kind of Isbell, and it you know, because that John Anderson has the Seminole wind, you know, da, 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 real pretty with the fiddle in the front. So I was kind of thinking that vibe, just that, you know, just had that vibe with it. But anyway, I write a lot of stuff, you know, a lot of different.
No, and when you're doing those live, do you tie together some of these kind of, I don't know if that's a ballad or whatever, but a slower song? Do you lay the long solos on those too to become part of the?
Sometimes, you know, I don't do a lot of that singer-songwritery stuff live, man. I play the more natural girl kind of, you know. You know, like
can you say that this is like music
stuff.
you're supposed to dance to, or is that part of it? Like when you're having to really entertain an audience?
Yeah, you know, my shows are more. I have a lot of musicians that come to see me, so it's not as much as entertaining like the drunk bar crowd. I have music fans and music like festival goers and that kind of stuff. So I do like to play stuff you can dance to, but I'm not really worried about packing a whole night with that. I just think that strong musical moments is important, and just trying to invoke the energy, you know, or not really trying to, but just like letting it invoke itself, you know, just letting the energy happen. So anyway.
Do set lists like kind of get set up for you and stay that way, or are you moving
Set
around all
lists
the time?
move around. Set lists don't even happen sometimes. You know, I'll say, all right, this is gonna be the first 4, and then just listen for what I go into on the 5th one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you write out a set list and you stick to it, if it's not moving the audience in a certain direction, you have to go with it. And then you don't get the opportunity to change it up to something that's going to work better. I just like to kind of keep it open because you have to read the audience, and you don't never know what direction it's going to go. You may play 3 rock and blues songs, and everybody's standing there like, yeah, whatever. And then you hit one slow blues and a B.B. King lick, and And the next thing you know, everybody's going crazy. And then, you know, you can go a more laid back vibe for a couple more there and then speed it up a little bit. Just whatever. Like you can.
It's like a biorhythm of it.
Yeah, it leaves room for improvisation even on what you're going to play. Or like, you know, it just leaves it open. I've always kind of been like that though. Maybe that's why I'm more like less successful. Like people have their stuff together more. I don't know, but I mean, I just feel like it feels more authentic to me just to kind of do it that way. And everybody that's played my gig over the years. I mean, I've had tons of musicians over the years, and they all know. I mean, everybody knows what to expect when they get up there with me. It's like, oh yeah, you know. But everybody has a great time, and they always look forward to playing it. But they know it's going to be spur of the moment. That's just what I come from jam bands and soul and stuff with soul. So I mean, if it's too polished or too rehearsed, it almost feels robotic.
Yeah.
You know? So it's not that we don't know the changes, and it's not that we don't learn songs, and when I write something, the bass player knows the changes and the drummer knows what hits it is and this and that. It's about leaving space and leaving it open and just giving it, you know, room to breathe and room to
have its own life out there.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you call that?
Right. Chicken picking. Yeah.
It's like a whole style.
Like it's just bluegrass.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty
But
cool.
it goes in the blues too. So you can do the bluegrass. Right? Or you can do it goes both ways. So like that's how I kind of add country. Like if I'm doing and I'll go. It adds an element of like weirdness in there. It's kind of anticipating. It's, you know, so that's just my style.
Boogie Long, thanks
My
so much
pleasure.
for coming by. Soul
Thanks
Country.
for having me.
Soul Country number 5 is in the books with special appreciation to Film Delicious, the New Orleans Cigar Box Guitar Festival, Boogie Long, and Reed Mathers for our theme, We Ride. 5 was brought to you by Ace Production and the Blues Center with funding from the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation. Tune in again for more roots music, culture, and lore as Season 2 rolls on with multi-instrumentalist Bruce Sunpie Barnes and the guitar-slaying Aaron Coburn. And find trailers, highlights, and playlists, as well as a full archive of episodes at soulcountry.com.